Good morning and welcome to Venture Addiction with Greg and Ryan. Today we're going to talk about adapting to change, right? Like there's been a lot of big changes going on, and there always is the new year. And Greg had some pretty serious life changes too, and I've had some pretty big business changes, and so we're just going to talk about that and kind of lean into it, and we're just going to go from there, man. How was your huge drive, right?
Yeah, we did. Happy to be back. I actually last week just straight up blanked. I didn't even know what day it was. Like it was just a wash. So, but it was good. We headed out Monday morning last week and left Vacaville about 4:30 in the morning. Made it to Sedona, then we went to Tulsa, then we went to I don't even remember where the next stop was, somewhere in Tennessee, I think, and now we're here in North Carolina, and so. Um, like a lot of driving. It's been a long time since I've sat that long. I don't think I've ever sat that long in one spot without like ever in my entire life because I'm not one to necessarily sit and stay still. Never have been. So it was a new experience, and now we're here in North Carolina, and yeah, like over the past couple months, like a lot of things have changed. Like my in person personal training kind of took a turn. I knew I was forced into looking for other work, got into a trade, and like I found out that I really freaking loved it. So out here, I got an interview for a trade, and hopefully something comes of it. But then, like at the same time that I got the trades coming up, I just had a call yesterday from a guy who's going to have like he's starting up his own electrician's company and electrical company, and he was like wanted to see what we could do to offer some type of health and wellness plan going into the new year for his guys. And I was just talking to you about it, Ryan, before we hopped on this call. It was just like, you know, the changes in my career haven't really ever been planned, but like when I feel like I'm being kind of led or directed into a particular path, I've just flowed with it. Like I had never had any intention of trying to be the guy that's essentially a physical therapist in the gym. Like essentially, like I'm the one that people come to if you're in pain. But that's kind of what it became when I was early on in my training career, and now here we are. I've already helped a couple of guys from the previous position I was doing. Like I already helped a couple of guys with their back pain, and like I got a little bit of work, like a little bit of experiences in a trade, and like we're gonna get into another one, and like so the online fitness business for me may end up looking like offering online group coaching to companies that for specific tradespeople that because trades can be really hard on your freaking body, man. Like it can be real hard. Like you work some type of construction job, sheetrock, even like any trade really. Because like as a painter, I was hauling around 55-pound buckets, two at a time, four at a time, that like a lot of moving around, and so like trades can be really hard and take a toll on your body and like really warp you by the time you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. And like one of the things that I saw from the guy that employed me in the previous job was like he fell into this because when he was having back pain, when he would sit down and stop moving, the back pain would go away. He erroneously attached non activity to the solution to his pain, for example. Just using this as a, like, I mean, and he's not wrong necessarily. Like, I mean, of course, like, we can't disprove, like, sit down, stop moving, stop hurting. Like, we can't argue that that's the reality, but like, how do we make it so that he doesn't have pain in the first place so that he has to stop moving is like where my mind would go.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of cool. I get some experience as a tradesman, understand the lifestyle, and then be able to speak more directly to those that are in the trades and like how I can fit a workout plan and a nutrition plan into someone's lifestyle that does a trade and kind of cater to that market. Because like biggest thing that people lose time on in work in America is low back pain,
Yep.
right? And so like if we can, especially the people on the job, like most trades, if you don't work you don't eat. Like you're not going to get paid unless you're actually on the site. And so if we can eliminate time lost because you're hurt, then the people in the trades are going to be living a much more comfortable, not comfortable in the sense of physically comfortable, but like much more comfortable life, knowing that they can continue to provide for themselves and their family without being at risk of having to lose a day, lose a week, lose a month because of some injury that could have been avoided if we were just did the proper preparation. So like it's kind of cool. Like I got my like gears spinning off of yesterday's call about like how I can best serve with my experience, like how I can best serve the people that are right in front of me, and like that's not it was never part of my plan, honestly, like until kind of like my wheels started spinning yesterday, and I feel like it's something that I want to run with. So
Awesome.
yeah, just got to run with it, man.
Yeah, one of my longest clients, I like to call him my day one client because he was somebody that followed me from Crunch after COVID, and he's in his 50s. He owns a construction company, and he was like, "I just want to keep working. I'm the only one who makes money in my family, and I got to keep working." And that was
Yeah.
like his fitness goal, right? And so now we're like, now he's below 200 pounds for the first time in his since he can remember. We were actually talking about it the other day, and like he's in the best shape of his life, and he's like 53 now, and he's pretty strong and he can outpace his employees that are younger than him. And it's like all the benefits you get from like working out and moving. And he was the same way. He had low back pain. He couldn't squat, like all these other, pretty standard things that people get when they start to age. And it's like, you just see that happen over and over again. And like, as somebody who works, you and I work in the fitness industry, you're like, well, sure, you could sit there and not be in pain, or you could actually correct the problem and like strengthen it and then continue to do what you love to do, right? Work or whatever it is. Or for him, he likes to wakeboard as well. So you know what I mean? It's like how do we keep doing these things we love? And like I like that you're like finding your stride back again. You know what I mean? I'm looking forward to seeing these whole workout programs you're going to design for people in the trades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
uh, Stuff they could do on the job site. I always love those videos when there's like guys on the job sites doing their stretches in the group and stuff like that. And like, yeah,
Hmm.
man, it'll be good.
Yeah.
For me, man, the
Because
changes. Oh, go on.
no, go ahead.
So for me, man, the changes have been big these last couple months. It's like, you know, getting ready for this new year and getting ready to launch a new phase of development for my business. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm kind of leaning into like what I know best, and that's working with like office workers and tech workers, people who are stuck at a desk all day. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like that wasn't my plan when I started, right? I wanted to work with power lifters, right? But you know, I really see tons of help when I'm helping people that spend all day at a desk, and they're like, my legs hurt, my hips hurt. I don't ever move. I just have this like horrible shoulder position, and it hurts to lift my head. I'm like, yay, because you probably shouldn't do this all day for 18 hours, stressed out,
Right.
right? And so it's like it's interesting how life and like fitness kind of when you find your niche, just kind of lean into it.
Yeah. And one of the things, like, you can't be afraid when the door opens, right? I mean, like, I know for sure there's been a lot of opportunities that have been in front of me that have been at like within grasp. If I were to make a little bit of effort in that direction, ultimately never came to fruition because when the opportunity presented, I waited too long out of fear of what could potentially go wrong, or like what if I'm not making the right decision, like those things, like those doubts that inherently creep into your mind. And like I think it would be silly to throw caution to the wind. Like if you get a gut feeling, or if you get a doubt, or if you get something that is kind of something's like, what if this, what if this were to happen, what if that were to happen, of course pay attention to that. Like don't like running blindly into combat and you don't even know who your opponent is. That's definitely a foolhardy decision, but at the same time you can't be afraid to pull the trigger. Like you can't be afraid. And if you are, like I have been, or crippled and paralyzed by self-doubt, like if you sit in that, then you're gonna watch your life go by you. Like you're gonna let that girl get away from you. You're gonna let that job opportunity get away from you. That opportunity, whatever it is, like you're gonna let that slip. And there's no going back most of the time. Like you don't get to pass go and collect $200 if you don't go ahead and take it the first time. Like you don't, that's it's not there anymore. And not to say that another one won't open up, but that one that was maybe meant for you is gone, and like you're gonna have to essentially work your way into and wait for the next opportunity. And so like this is something that I talked to my fiance about it last night, and about potentially doing this group class or like a group exercise program for this electricians company out of California. And I was like, the guy was curious. He wanted to know what I could do in person, but then of course I'm not there anymore.
Mhm.
so so like but after having spoken with them a little bit, like I've worked with people successfully online, and I've worked I've coached groups as a swim coach for a long time, and like for a very brief period, I was partly responsible for a group of about 400 airmen based out of Travis, and I've done like a lot of work. I'm not going to say a lot of work, but I've worked with strength and conditioning programs for high schools, and for on different for varying lengths of time. And so I'm not this isn't an alien idea to me about like how can we do this, how can we make this successful, how can we get buy-in.
Yeah.
And like so talking about like how this would end up looking like as a tangible program, like what am I actually bringing to the table when I hop on the Zoom call with this guy next week, or whenever we can cross paths. But like when like how do like what do I bring to the table to present. And um, like just with a little bit of experience with being on the construction site and observing multiple different trades all at work, and seeing how the HVAC guys have to move and what they do, and how painters have to move the paint around and get the pumps around, and things of that nature. So obviously, conceptualize a single arm farmer's carry or something like with
Yep.
an awkward weight is like what you're doing in a construction site. And like being able to
Suitcase
train.
deadlifts. I mean,
Yeah, suitcase deadlifts for sure. I did those for a while, man.
yeah.
Those are brutal. I did those with
Yeah.
an axle bar,
Ooh.
actually. And so because like you need a solid grip.
Hmm.
So and like where like from my experiences, man, like I know for sure lower back grip, even cervical spine, like a lot of like you look at some of the strongest athletes, and we're not wrestlers by any stretch. We're not Olympic powerlifters. Most people, like especially you're talking about desk workers, and
Yeah.
I'm talking about people on construction sites. Like we're not talking about anybody that's trying to pin another human being the same size and shape as they are. But like I've always had this practice of looking at what the best do in any particular field. Like what are the best strongmen doing? What are the best powerlifters doing? What are the best bodybuilders doing? What are the best basketball players doing? Wrestlers doing? Historically, like who have been the most successful athletes throughout the decades, and what were they doing at the time that they were at their peak? And like when it clicked, it clicked with me that we can't be afraid to train in a bent lower back. When it's like if you're trying like wrestlers, an Olympic wrestler, I'm not talking about like hoisting the belt up in front of, we're not talking about the people's champ, or we're not talking about WWF or or ECW or whatever. I don't even know what's out there anymore. But like we're not talking about the flashy showy stuff. And yes, they're incredible athletes in their own regard, but I'm talking about actual Olympic level wrestlers. There's no way you're picking up another human being that is the same weight as you in the same way that you could go after a barbell.
No.
There's no way. Like you look at UFC, or you look at what they're doing. And so like all of these people that say that I was hearing from people that were teaching me, and people that were above me, so to speak, as I was coming up, as initially starting with personal training, you can't bend your back. You don't bend your back. You have to bend at the legs. You have to use your legs. Don't use your legs. Don't use your back. And it's like, how do you not use your back?
Yeah.
Really, like honestly, like of course you don't want to use your back maybe in the same way that you use your legs, but if you are grabbing something with your hands and picking it up, you are using your back. Maybe maybe it's more for stability. Maybe like you want to make sure that you are able to maintain position and not necessarily exert movement. But it didn't make sense to me. Like, don't use your back. How do you not use your back at all? Like maybe a leg press, but even then, like you could argue
Get
the
braced.
little amount. Yeah,
Well,
you
you're
could
bracing.
argue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started to train. I started to train with a bent back, and lo and behold, I'm not crippled.
Yep.
Like I'm not paralyzed yet. And like, don't be an idiot. Don't go start trying to PR deadlift with a cat
Those Zercher
looking
squats,
cat
bro.
look. But find your proper entry point and like slowly introduce this type of stimulus. And these are the things that I would bring potentially, not potentially, these are the things that I would bring to a trade style training program. Because if you're going to be awkwardly bent as you're trying to hoist up sheet metal and hang it on a wall, or you're doing a single arm farmer's carry or like suitcase carry deadlift style as you're trying to carry a pump up multiple flights of stairs. Like these are the things, like you need to be strong
Yep.
in positions that are traditionally weak. And if you can do that, you're a lot less likely to experience that pain that happens inevitably when you take a body that's not properly adapted to the stimulus you're putting it under or putting it to, and just saying, like, you're trying to take something that can't do it and say do it.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah. 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 So I've been dealing with this myself since I injured my back, right? Like now the training is like rounded spine lifts, right? Like it's intentional rounded spine lifting to like heal my back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And intentionally rounding it and like putting myself in that kind of flexion and extension position that like people are like, don't do that. But like that's how I'm healing it, right? Is like, I like to do like raised toe, flexed, rounded back lifts. And that's really been helping my back. And then like intentional I like to do with like the cable rows, really rounded spine, pull and extensions, right? To really help get that range of motion back and really feel better and
Mm-hmm.
really train in that kind of position that helps, right? Because I did go too heavy too often, you know? I like
Yeah,
ego lifting. I'll
for
admit it.
sure.
You know what I mean? And like, so learning to move in every position is like super important, man. And like, just like you said, like there's plenty of trainers and like modalities of training, like, oh, don't ever do that. But like realistically, man, people do weird things all the time. And that's always when people hurt themselves is when they're doing weird things at home. They're like on a ladder, they decide to reach for something over here in their shed, and then they lift it, and then they're like in this awkward lifted position. They're like, my back hurts. I'm like, yeah,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have done that, right? But how do we make it better, right? How do we get strong in every position? And like that's what I really love about like training is like when you take these different styles and like like I was watching this guy do these like Zercher deadlifts and like some of these other lifts he was doing. I was like, all right, bro, that's brutal. You have an impressively strong back if you can do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like, you ever heard of bazooka deadlift? This was the most interesting thing
Yeah.
I've ever
I
heard.
have. I saw Juji do it.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? And like just pick it up, get it up to one hand, like man, I
Right.
was like, I wonder if I could do that. Like, but like you see these people that can do all this stuff. The human bodies that can make it happen. We just really got to get stronger in every position and stop being afraid of like don't ever move your back ever, right? Like, nah,
Yeah.
man, let's train hard. Let's get ready for it. Especially if you work in the trades, especially if you're doing something like that where you're gonna have end up in those compromised positions, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. It's so. How do you adapt? How do you train harder? How do you get better? Right? Like those are all the things I always think about. And how do you make it palatable for everyday people, right? Like when you get these people who been working in the trades for a long time who are already in kind of some chronic pain, usually their knees or their like we said, our back, or sometimes it's their hands. It's like, how do you get them back into a place that like they feel better again? I remember the one employee or the one client I have who works in the contracting fields. I remember the first day, the way he looked at me when I got into a squat position, I was like, this will be comfortable one day. And he just looked at me funny. I could see him roll his eyes, and he's like, all right. Now he just hangs out there. Now he's like, just hangs out in a deep squat. And I was like, yeah, man, this is what we talked about. And it's like, you know, it's hard when people are afraid to do what the body's capable of doing, right? And like, how do we
Yeah.
push ourselves to that next level? How do we stay strong all the time? And like, man, I want to be strong in my 80s. You know what I mean? I want to be doing Zercher deadlifts in my 80s, bro.
Have you ever
Even
done Zercher deadlifts?
though we did a few, we used to power lift and we used to do strongman stuff, man. Those stuff are so
Yeah.
brutal on your arms, the forearms, and
Yeah.
like right in that crook of your arm. Yeah.
Yeah. How heavy did you go on a Zercher deadlift? Like from the floor, jam your elbows into it and pick it up?
I
I'm
think
just
just one
curious.
plate. I think just one plate. We were
Oh
doing like a
yeah.
bunch of strongman stuff then, but yeah, like I remember I found a video of me doing like stones and logs, and I was like, all right, you know what I
Nice.
mean? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the heaviest Zercher deadlift, and this is actually where my back felt at its best.
Hmm.
The heaviest Zercher deadlift, like from the barbell on the floor,
Hmm.
jam your elbows underneath it, and stand up with it. The heaviest I did was 245,
Oof.
and the heaviest Zercher squat I did, like out of the rack. I would usually do it for from a negative, if you will. So like I would set the rack at
Low.
I would already be in a squat position, not maybe not parallel, but like I would say just above parallel, and jam the elbows underneath it, and from that squat position, stand up with it, and then set it back down. Like the heaviest I ever did there was 435.
435, brutal, bro.
Yeah, and
But
because like I remember one day a while ago. This was like maybe a year ago or longer. At this point, there was this group of guys that were working out, and one of them was a professional bodybuilder. Like I have BB card already and like everything, and I asked if I could tag along with them because like as we've talked about in the previous, like if I'm the strongest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. Same
yep,
for smartest or whatever. Like so, I don't like I've gotten strong by working out with people that are stronger than me, right? So like I don't have any problem working out with somebody that is just starting out or whatever. But like a workout partner, if I'm looking for a true genuine workout partner, like I want somebody that's stronger than me, or at least we're competitive with one another, so that we can
yeah,
drive performance out of each other. That's what I would like. When I get my surgery and everything's taken care of, like that's what I'd really love um, to have, and like be able to work out with my fiance. My fiance is freaking strong, man. Like she did, like she was doing rack pull. She surprised me. No straps or anything. She was doing rack pulls at 135, and she's right around that weight, right? And so like
yeah.
she's powerful, man. And so like yeah, so I love working out with her. Love to be able to find a guy, but I remember back to the story. Like I remember working out with this group of guys, IFBB Pro. They were doing Zercher squats. I'm not entirely sure why. Like if you're a bodybuilder, you're doing Zercher squats. But I mean, maybe he was just having fun with it or whatever. Maybe he connected really, really well with that particular lift. Like he felt it in his quads, like nobody else's
Man,
business.
it's a brutal lift.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to pick.
Yeah,
I guess. And like I remember watching him take 225 to maybe it was 275 or something like that for a ride, and uh, I was impressed, and I remember at the time I was doing like the very first time I was trying to do Zercher squats like that with them. I was doing 135 and they had chains, so like a 135 and 40 pounds of chains on it as well, and I got obsessed with it because like I remember looking around the gym and nobody's doing this kind of thing, and like you got this guy that's throwing around 275 and everybody's like in their head and in their eyes, and it's like in my like just quietly to myself, and it's like I'm gonna get good at this. I didn't say I was gonna be better than anybody, but like I said, I'm gonna get good at this to myself. And I still have the video the first time that I did. It was 365. Like pull it, like stand up with it out of the rack, walk out with it, down and up 365. Like it was, I had the safety hand or the safety bar set at just like where I like in the bottom
yeah,
of the squat. In the bottom of the squat, like below parallel, and the bar was just underneath the safety handles, or the safety bars were just underneath. So I knew that I squatted below parallel and up. And I still have that video at 365 doing that. And like, not that I'm doing it for applause or anything, but like I look back at that video, I'm like, damn, like That's crazy. And now I've done it where it was almost 2 times my body weight, Zercher squat style. And um, again, this is when my back felt its best.
Yeah.
Like people look at that and it's like, man, this going to kill your, like, that would hurt my elbows or that would hurt my back or
Yeah.
whatever. And
If you're not used to
uh,
it.
yeah, people would be like, does that hurt? And I was like, well, I mean, don't feel great, but it
Yeah.
doesn't. I mean, it doesn't hurt in the sense of like, ow. It just hurts. It's like, wow, this is hard. And I wouldn't have gotten there if I was scared to adapt. But I saw something that I wasn't good at, and I wanted to get good at it. And so be smart about it, especially if you're older. Like, don't just go off and try to PR every single time that you go into the gym. That's not how you do it. And if you're 18 and you can do that repeatedly and you're not hurt, I promise you one day you're gonna be hurt.
Yep.
But like, um, you can be like you and me. You can be like good old Ryan and me over here with
Yeah. Yeah.
a couple of different back injuries, couple different whatever. I had a couple different shoulder injuries. Like, you can be like
Yep.
us if you want, or you can stick to a program because like injury is going to be the biggest thing that sets you back from adapting and um, adapting real time. And you can't, like, it just ties back. We can do it. We can apply it to your business. We can apply it like what I'm doing right now, what you've been doing, growing yours, or your fitness,
Yep.
anything, man. You can, like, once the opportunity, like, if the opportunity is in front of you, for me, after you take some time in prayer and communicating with the people that are closest to you, that your decisions will affect them too, kind of thing. Like, once you have as much information, maybe not all of it. Like, that's where you have to discern. Like, once you have enough information, and it's like it's time. You got to make the jump, or you got to let it go. And I know for sure I've never felt good about letting it go. I have let it go. I have let dreams slip out my fingertips, and because I was waiting for the next little bit of information or whatever, and it doesn't feel good to look back and go like, man, what if?
Hey man, I'm looking forward to coming to your strongman gym in a couple years in North Carolina, bro. That's what I
For
see.
sure,
You know what I
for
mean?
sure, bro. Yeah,
But yeah, man, I mean, it's like it's just really how do you adapt to that change, especially as the new year comes. This is always a big topic. Like people are like, oh, I know I need to change. Like, cool, bro, start yesterday. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean, man? Like, like plan for that. Like, and it's like, I just really love how you can take all these applications that you have in fitness to the rest of your life, right? Like the dedication, the discipline, the like willingness to adapt to change, the drive to push yourself. Like these are all things everybody should do in every aspect of their life, not just in the gym, right? But the gym lets
right.
us do it in this kind of smaller, more bite-sized format that we can be like, all right, well, I committed to myself. I said I was going to go. I did it. I succeeded, right? Like, cool. Now I believe that I can do the things I say I'm going to do. So what if we
Mm-hmm.
said something 10 times bigger, like move
Right.
across the country. you know, it's like it's just what it is, man. And so I think we're gonna end on that note, and we're gonna call that this is a good talk. And then next week we'll talk a little bit more about like what happens after you start to adapt. How do you continue to challenge yourself, and where do you go from there?
For sure.
All right, man. Have a good night. Let's do this.
Let's do
Dave,
this. Let's get after it.
hey, man.
Yep.